No. Yes. No. So you are able to see the slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start our discussion. So if you remember, so the last classes, we have started our plate girder. Okay, so the most important thing, what's the difference between a girder and a beam? No. So this is the most important step actually. Okay, so when you have to call it as a design as a girder, when you have to design as a beam, say, so this is 67. Okay, so d by tw, if it is more than 67, then the clauses of plate girders have to be invoked actually. Okay, so this is very clearly mentioned in the code itself. Then another most important thing in the plate girder, say, because these are all plates, right? They are not like a columns or something, so they will have post buckling strength also. Okay, so that's what we are calling as tension field action, or whatever you say, they call this one. Okay, so these are the basic modes of failure also have we have discussed also. Then the post buckling strength, so this is what we call as the tension field action. So once the web has buckled, say, it cannot carry the the compression, it will carry tension, and then the stiffness whatever you are providing, so they will carry the compression, and this is what they call as the tension field action itself. So how to find out the depth and thickness of the web we have already discussed, like maximizing the section modulus 2 by 3, 1 by 3, 3 by 4, 1 by 4, like that also we have seen. So there are some approximate formulas have been given. So web thickness also we have a clauses given in the code itself. Okay, so how to do spacing and other things also we have a guideline. Then another most important thing was this 345. Okay, so any of you remember what is this clause stands for, this 345? What happens if this clause doesn't meet? No. See, any of you remember? So what is that clause? So what did we say? Because it is a plate, say. So the top flange will be in compression, the bottom flange will be in tension. Okay. So now because of the plate is so large and curvature issue will be there. So you can resolve, this will be inclined actually when the your plate girder bends. So if you resolve into components, you will be having vertical component, horizontal component. Okay. So the vertical components, the top one, then the compressions, the which comes from here, so they will create some kind of a compression, and your plate girder may buckle also. So to do for this requirements, so this is 345 is given in the code itself. Okay, so this is what we said, 67, and these are some guidelines how to decide the span to depth and other things also. Size of the flange also you can use the formula. So the idea here is the whole bending moment is carried by the flange. Web will not have any role in the bending moment at all. Web carries only the shear kind of thing itself. Okay, so this is also how to find out the sizes of the flanges also. Then plate girders, say, so here to avoid lateral torsional buckling, you have to provide longitudinal stiffness. So there are also guidelines given in the code. Okay, so then when it comes to shear buckling, so I have shown you videos also. We have two methods the code specifies. Simple method, that is don't worry about tension field or anything, just after it buckles, say, that means it cannot carry any more load, like how we design a column or something like that. Tension field means you are utilizing that extra strength also, so that you may get some economical or whatever you see the things itself. And this is what the most important failure is shear buckle. That's the diagonal things you can see in the plate girder. Okay, so these are mode shapes I showed you. So the this is the critical buckling stress. If you solve analytically the plate equations, you will get this expression, that is a critical stress. So then if you use this simple post critical method, say, so we are solving just as a column. So 0.8 is the criteria, that is more than 0.8 means it is slender. If it is more than, say, it is a stocky, then it fails by yielding itself. Okay, so these are the formulas given in our code by the simple method, and this is a slenderness ratio. Okay, now this is very easy method, but if you want to do tension fields, then it is little bit complex, because you have to include the strength of the stiffeners and flanges, and so many things will come into picture actually. Okay, and I have explained you also what is the this basic formula says. So how our the tension field, how it breaks, as already we told you, the flanges, here you see the hinges forms in the flanges. That is how you see the plate girder fails. So any of you remember this, what is the model we are using in our code? Now what is this model known as? Like you see Perry-Robertson formula we set for columns. Now this formula, what is this model? Now what is this model I have written here? What is this model known as? Now
Cardiff model.
Cardiff model. Okay, so where the failure is like this. Okay, so failure happens this one. So here it can, this is a post buckling strength, this is a buckling strength. Okay, plus you have the tension field sigma YTF contribution, then we have the flanges also. So three components will be there. So this has been derived as the famous Cardiff model, you say, they say, and that is what many codes are using also. Okay, so this is what we say. So we have A, then we have B, then we have C. So additional three things will be there actually. So anyway, so the weak flanges, what happens? Strong flanges, what happens? There are so many studies are there, and a lot of research is there, so much of literature, and people are still doing research in this area itself. Okay, anyway, so right now in our IS code, this is the formula used in the IS code. Okay, so we have this tension field, then we have this AB into tau B, which is from the buckling strength of your plate itself. So this comes from this von Mises stresses itself. So there are a set of formulas are there, like theta, phi, and other things, like this inclination of the tension field, then anchorage length actually in the compression flange, in the tension flange, what are the anchorages, the width of the field. So all these things have to be, there are empirical formulas are given in the code. So one can, using these formulas, you can find out the tension field strength also if you want. Okay. Now coming to the end panel design, say, so this is a very important here. Generally design means, we design the web, we design the flange, that is closed actually, or maybe stiffeners, that we do. But here in plate girders, say, so this end panel, say, that is the last panel actually, which is where, this is happening. So that design is very special actually. Okay. Suppose if there are no stiffeners, say, so if there are no stiffeners, nothing is there. Okay. So this is my plate girder, say, simply supported or whatever. No stiffeners are there, so it is like unstiffened plate girder, say. So then no need to worry about this end panel design at all, because there is no panels at all, because there are no stiffeners at all. So if there are no stiffeners, if it is unstiffened plate girder, okay. So if it is unstiffened, say, that means no stiffeners are there, no longitudinal, no the transverse stiffeners are there, then no need to worry about this end panel design. Okay, only thing you may have to design one stiffener at the support actually. If the plate girder, it may buckle or whatever, the bearing, we have said buckling, bearing. If the web is not strong enough to, because here at the support you will have a support reaction actually, the concentrated load. So if it is not happening, so maybe you may have to design a stiffener. Otherwise, there is nothing to do, no need to do any end panel design. Okay, but if there are stiffeners, okay, if there are stiffeners and you are going for the tension field things, then you have to worry about this end panel design. Okay, so here also there are two methods are there. One is let us say we have put up the stiffeners. So once you have put up the stiffeners, say, what happens is tension field, it will form actually. Okay, so the tension field will obviously form, in between this stiffeners itself. Now this panel one, that is what we are calling this as a end panel, say. So here to design this end panel, what happens, because tension field is getting formed in the adjacent panel, so this will create some extra the forces which will come on this end panel basically. Okay, so now so this is a tension field, say. So it is inclined, so you can resolve it into two components, transverse as well as the horizontal, which we are denoting this as HQ, that is a reaction longitudinal component, vertical component. So this will act on the panels here. So this will create some type of bending. Then we have a shear and all other the transverse shear, this RTF says. So all these things comes into picture here. So what the code says is the end panel, say. So this end panel, this is the last one. So what happens is in this area, say panel A or before the panels, so each tension field will have a horizontal and it will have a vertical component. So the horizontal components automatically, they will get balanced by the neighboring panels. But when the end panels, say, you don't have any extra additional panel this side. So the code says is you can design the two ways. One is by post critical method, another one is the end panel also design as per the tension field itself. So there are two types of designs are there. One is this end panel, say. So the end panel design you have to do only when you are having stiffeners. Okay, and the stiffeners also, there should be tension field which has to be formed. If there are no stiffeners, no tension field, then no need to do any end panel design. But if there are stiffeners and if you have designed this tension field method, say, so because this is a panel, all other panels tension field is getting formed, then this end panel, you have to do some extra, the design. And here also you have two things. One is by post critical method, or this itself you can design by a tension field method also. So because of this tension field, say, you will get some extra forces, bending moment, or this transverse shear and other things will come. So the code clearly says like they will give you a lot of, so you can do like this actually. You can provide a double stiffener, or you can provide a, this end post or whatever you say. So extra thing also can be provided. So these are the anchor field forces. So they come from that tension field which is acting in the neighboring panel. Okay, so the panel B, whatever tension field is there, so they will give some type of the reactions, okay, and bending moment which comes on the end panel. So this you have to do a design actual, okay, and then there are some guidelines have been given also. So if a single stiffener, you can go for a bearing stiffener, you can do the end post, say, you have to connect, and then we also said this one 2/3 of MTF, say. So this extra thing also has to be done here also. Okay, so then the thing is a connection between flange and the web plates. So this also we have seen, that is a welding. Okay, how to do the design. So you have to find out the shear. So generally you see the welding is done here actually, okay, in the top one. Okay, so we have, this is my plate girder, say. So here we have to do the welding basically. So you have to do this welding, that is here, and then here both the sides we do the welding because of symmetry and other things also. So how to design this weld also. Okay, so you have to find out the shear force there, and then you have to find out the shear force per unit length, all these formulas which comes from the strength of materials. So you equate it to the size of the weld, and from that, say, you can find out the throat thickness and all other things can be estimated here itself. Okay, now once the end panel, so the end panel design is not important if there are no stiffeners. If it is unstiffened, no need to do anything. But if there are stiffeners, then tension field is getting formed, say, then you have to worry about the end panel design. Otherwise, no need to worry. Now let us see this stiffeners design. Okay, so now stiffeners, there are variety of stiffeners are there, like you see intermediate stiffeners we call. Then at the end, if you are providing here the supports, we call them as the bearing stiffeners, or so many names has been given. So this is like you see intermediate stiffeners which are provided inside the plate girder. So as already I told you, the intermediate transverse stiffeners are basically their job is the shear buckling of the web, that is a tension field and other thing, that is the job of intermediate stiffeners. Longitudinal stiffeners are required for the lateral torsional buckling. Okay, so many stiffeners will be there. Then you can have load carrying and bearing stiffeners also. Sometimes near the support, you see, you may have a support reaction, say, or if there is a concentrated load actually which is coming on the the plate girder. So here you can see, so below, so this stiffener, not only this is intermediate stiffener, its job is not only to do the shear buckling tension field, but you have to design for this one also, that is the bearing stiffener. You remember, right, when there is a concentrated load, what happens? Now in beams we have discussed what happens when there is a concentrated load. So the web, that is a web, what happens to the web? So we discussed, right, two things can happen. What are those local failures? Web buckling is one, other one is
crippling.
Crippling, that 45 degrees to 2.5 you would have heard, right? So that also you may have to check if the load is coming on the stiffness. Okay. Then another most important thing is, see the flange here, if you see here, this portion, say, now you can't join the stiffener, directly, because, your thing will be already, the web and flange will be welded. Now you are providing an additional stiffener actually, which is like this. So you will have a gap actually before this welding and this welding. So this is sometimes we call this as a chamfered or coped region actually. So to clear the weld. Okay. So this, like this, you see the stiffener will be there. So the coping length or whatever also, comes into picture. That is how you see the stiffeners are attached. There will be some small gap will be there. So this we call as a chamfered or coped, to clear the weld itself. So our IS code defines, so many stiffeners like this intermediate web stiffener say. So to prevent buckling strength of slender web due to shear. So this we call as intermediate web stiffener. Then load carrying stiffener say. So, if you have to provide local buckling of the web due to concentrated load. So there is a load below the load itself, you have a stiffener. So the stiffener also will carry, some portion of the load. So how to design load carrying stiffener? Then bearing stiffener say. Okay, so it is something like the web, the crippling kind of thing. So this also will be there. Then we have a torsional stiffener also. So the stiffener should have some torsional stiffener, the stiffnesses, because while erecting the plate girder say, okay, because the plate girder is so long, right? So this much, 10 meter, 100 meter span say. So when you're putting, some accidental eccentricities, erection problems are there, then, you will have this torsional stiffnesses also becomes very, the important. Then we have a diagonal stiffener also will be there, tension stiffener. So like this, so many stiffener designs are there in our code itself. Now another most important thing is when we do this, the stiffeners say. So this is my stiffener here. Okay. So if I want to calculate the buckling of this stiffener say, okay, now generally what to do is the stiffener means this much area only we take actually. But in reality from experiments, what it has shown is, so this is my plate girder. This is the web of my girder say. So what people has found out from the experiments was so this region actually, so this 20 times epsilon TW. Okay, so this much region, it acts as a single unit actually because of this the stiffener, this one. So so this much region you have to use to calculate the buckling strength actually. So when you put stiffener this side and this side, so the area, the influence or whatever the buckling, when we calculate the area and other things. So apart from stiffeners, so you may have to add this 20 times epsilon TW extra. So it is something like a cruciform kind of shape you are having. Okay. So this is my, so this is the the stiffener, this one say. So this much region you see you have to take care. So this is what you see the code clearly specifies. Okay. So this is, these two are stiffeners. So this is stiffener, this is stiffener. So this portion of the web, it gives the whole thing acts as a the unit itself. That is how you see the code. This has come from experiments actually. When a width of 40 times is assumed to act with the stiffener. Okay, so that is how these things comes into picture. So then what is the length of the stiffener say? So here also we have a guidelines actually. Okay, so 20 times I think TQ is the maximum outstanding length, we say maximum length or whatever you see, outstand they call, I think the maximum outstand of a stiffener. But whatever it is a 20 or whatever say, but the effective thing will be say 14 times TQ. So that is how it has to be taken, which is given in the code itself. Okay, so then this is what we said. So the outstand of a web stiffener say, so outstand should not exceed 20 times TQ, where TQ is the thickness of the stiffener. So this is a guideline given in the code. Now when the outstand of the web is between 14 to 20, the stiffener design should be based on effective depth. You have to still take it as 14 times TQ. So the maximum outstand. Okay, so this is what so the outstanding this region. So how much outstand it should be? It should not exceed 20 times TQ, where TQ is the thickness of the stiffener. And the effective things for calculations we use as you say 14 times TQ. Okay, then bearing length also becomes important. So there are some guidelines given in the code. Okay, then buckling resistance of the stiffener say. How to find out stiffener buckling resistance? You all know how to find out buckling resistance of the web because we have done in the beams. But now for stiffener also, what the code clearly says is you have to use this curve C, the column curve C. You have to the column curve C, same whatever you are using for the web say, that itself you have to do. And apart from that, the effective section say is a full area of the stiffener together with an effective length of the web on each side of the center line of limited to 20 times the web thickness. That's what we said. Okay, so this entire portion is a cruciform, we say. So 20 times epsilon TW. So this portion has to be used for calculating its buckling, the strength itself. So the design strength, so this is what you have to use actually. Okay, web bar the stiffener. Then for finding the effective length of a stiffener say, so the guideline is intermediate transverse stiffeners means 0.7 times L you have to use. Suppose if the stiffener is carrying load also say, apart from this shear buckling, then the code gives is a 0.7. Then if the flange is not restrained, you use 1 times L itself. So these are the guidelines to find out the buckling resistance of your stiffeners. The web all of but the stiffener also how to find out. Then transverse stiffeners, you can use angle sections. The code gives how to use, you can use welded intermediate transverse stiffeners, load bearing stiffeners, so they say how to, the clearance, how much has to be given. So all the guidelines are given in the code itself. Like you see, the outstand, as already I told you, like, the local buckling, it should be, the width to thickness, you can find a 20 times a TQ or something. Then the minimum stiffnesses of your, the transverse web stiffeners also. So there are guidelines actually given in the code. So these are all these things have come from experiments. Okay, so no, people have done a lot of experiments. So from the experiments, some kind of empirical guidelines have come into our code itself. So the buckling say, so if you want to check for intermediate stiffener, okay, so when a tension field is utilized, so then if the stiffener is not subjected to external load or movement, then you have to use this formula. Suppose, you have a buckling resistance, load carrying web stiffeners are there, all kinds of things are there. Then you have to use, this, then the bending moment and other things also has to be used, and then this interaction equation has to be used in calculations. So the code clearly specifies how to obtain all these numbers itself. So how to now intermediate stiffness to web, how to connect this one, we have to do a welding here also. Okay, so this weld also, it says, this is TW square by, you see, 5 BS, so this is a shear force. So you have to design your, the thickness of the weld, or, that throat thickness or something, such that, so this, withstand a shear between, so not less than T square W by 5 times BS. So outstand width of the stiffener, and this is a minimum web thickness actual. So if you know the shear, you can calculate the throat thickness of your weld also. So then longitudinal stiffeners say. So why do we use longitudinal stiffeners? Now, objective is see, why do we provide a longitudinal stiffener? Transverse stiffeners we are providing for shear, but longitudinal stiffener is provided for
buckling of web.
no, buckling. What type of buckling?
Flexural buckling.
LTB you followed, right? So this is the most important, where you have to put the LTB. So last class our code gives 1/5, you remember, 0.2 times D, you have to put a longitudinal stiffener. So this also code gives actually what should be the thickness, what should be it's a 4C times a TW, other thing. Now if you want to put another longitudinal stiffener, so you have to put at the neutral axis, and this is the guidelines actually, okay, for longitudinal stiffeners. And then load carrying, say, suppose if the the load is also carried by the stiffeners, okay, then so these are the things, like you see, you have to check, how to find out for the web. So web formula is already known, we have done in the beams also. For crippling you take 2.5, then for buckling, say, you take 45 degrees angle. So these things are all well known. Now if you want to find out stiffeners, say, and the load is also acting, so this is the expression you see you have to use for finding this buckling or resistance of a stiffener under this concentrated load itself. Okay, so you have to do, and then torsional stiffeners also. So the code gives all the formulas actually, but this is required generally at the supports, because while erection, when you are putting the plate girders erecting, there may be some issues will be there. So the code says you have to check this torsional thing also. So all the formulas are empirical, and they have been given in the documented in the code actually. Okay, so then how to connect flanges to the web, already I have shown you. Then intermediate stiffeners also, so that there are some approximate, the guidelines are there. So these are the steps actually, finally, say, for the plate girder. So we have so many things are there in the plate girder design, so many things you have to do. So if you document nicely, so you can, these are the basic steps. So the first thing is, you followed. So now the first thing what you have to do is, like in beams, say, restrained beam, unrestrained beam. The two designs are separate. Okay, so here also for plate girder, you have to first decide whether the plate girder is being restrained or unrestrained actually. So if it is not, if it is restrained, say, then no need to worry about longitudinal stiffeners, no need to worry about lateral torsion buckling. Suppose if the plate girder is not restrained, say, then you have to put longitudinal stiffener also, so, and the design becomes much more, steps will be there, and economy also will not be there. So generally, what the people do is they do laterally, they do the restraint to achieve economy. But if you not, then you have to design longitudinal also. Okay, so if it is restrained, say, cannot be restrained, then lateral torsional buckling also has to be checked. This is an extra work. Now plate girder, another problem is in the beams, say we had standard, the steel tables we used to pick ISMB 600. So if it is ISMB 600, its weight here, there itself. But for plate girders, because everything is in your hand, right? The depth, the breadth of the flange, everything you are only deciding. So the self weight is a very, very problematic actually. Okay, so what is the dead load, or what is the weight of a plate girder? That itself is a very, very complex, because you don't know anything before the hand itself. So there are some guidelines are there, like WL by 300 or WL by 400 you should use. W is a total superimposed load over the girder. So what loads this plate girder has to carry. So if this W is approximate, and if the span also, you do for WL by 400 is the dead weight, or the load of that is a dead that is self weight of the plate girder actually. So this you find out, you add this to the total, this one also. So this is the load, and then you add this to the total load, so that it can carry its own weight plus the whatever load is coming on the plate girder. Okay, so once you know all these weights, so you find out the bending moment diagram, shear force diagram. So this is the most mandatory. Then factored things you have to find out, multiplying by 1.5 or something to find out the critical moment and shear force itself. Now once this load and everything, bending moment, shear force is known, say, then you have to do the design. Now you have to find out the thickness and depth of the plate girder. So these formulas, how did we derive these formulas? Any of you remember? What was the basis for these formulas? Now you remember we have discussed these formulas in the last class. How did we get this formula? By maximizing what?
Mass.
By maximizing the
Mass of web burst.
that is mass of the web. But finally, what did we do? Maximizing. We maximized
Section modulus.
Section model. That is plastic section modulus. Please remember this. Okay. From that, you will get that 2 by 3, 1 by 3. You remember, right? So that you have to use. Of course, 2 by 3, 1 by 3 comes from plastic section modulus. You can solve the same problem with rigidity also, because serviceability requirement, deflection is related to stiffness actually. So strength is related to section modulus. Stiffness is related to flexural, that EI kind of thing. That also you do. So then 1 by 4, some 3 by 4 kind of thing you have. So these are some guidelines, okay, so which you can decide before this one. So now once you know the thickness and D, you can assume K also. You can assume what should be the K, that is a slenderness ratio, you can find out. And so once you do all these things, the next step is the flange area has to be estimated actually. So, and the assumption here is how this formula came. The whole bending moment is carried by the plate girder. So bending moment is carried by which one?
Flanges.
Carried by the flanges. Okay, so generally this so area of flange is just the whole bending moment, but generally you have web also, but we ignore that itself. So from this expression, so you find out area, and to find out breadth of this flange and this one, say what is the guideline. So there are some empirical things are there, like some textbooks they use 0.3 times depth of the depth whatever you got from the previous step, say that can be taken as the breadth of the flange, you see. So there are so many guidelines are there. Another guideline is what is the guideline we said? See, we want the flanges to be if you are designing tension field and all other things, if you are going, say, and if you want plasticings to get formed in the flanges, tension field others, so the flange has to be plastic actually. So if the flange has to be plastic, we already know, so that D by T, B by T, it should be less than 9.4, 13.6. We have a guidelines. So from that you fix one and you fix another thing also. So this is a guideline to find out the flange area. Now this is what we said, the flange is classified. So these are the classification, like 8.4 times you followed, right? So we assume it to be plastic, and then you can find out outstanding width, and the thickness and other things also. So once a flange is done, say, now we have to verify for the bending. So the same concept, you use the same formula you use here, and you find out whether whatever you have used, say, is safe for bending moment or something like that. Now once bending moment is done, say, that is a flanges is done, now we have to come to the shear, that is a web portion basically. Okay, and now for the web say, so we have already said the slenderness ratio, aspect ratio, because if you are providing unstiffened, then no need to do this C. But if it is a stiffened say, then you have said, right, so many clauses have been there, so you have to pick from that graph, like d by t less than 200, then so many things we have set. Stiffness spacing, based on that you can decide your depth and the thickness of the web itself. So once you have decided that one, now you have to calculate the web strength actually. So here, how many methods are there? No. So web, how to design the webs, our code gives how many methods?
2 methods.
2 methods. So one is a simple post critical method, another one is a tension field. Okay, so tension field method. So this one is simply which is the easiest thing is a post critical. Simply you have to find out slenderness ratio 0.8 or whatever that formula, substitute. But if you want to use a tension field, then things becomes complex, because you have to find out width of the tension field, the inclination of the tension field, all those extra things has to be done actually. So once this is done, so now so now you have to design the the intermediate transverse stiffeners and other things you have to see. Now because when you have providing the stiffeners, okay, then tension field is there, then you have to decide this end panel. So this is a problem you followed. Suppose if there are no stiffeners, say, so this step number 10 can be end panel design is required if there are no stiffeners. If it is just unstiffened web actually. No.
Not needed.
Not required. But if the stiffeners are there, then what happens if stiffeners are there? Definitely tension field will come. So if tension field will come, say, then the end panel design, because other side you don't have anything to balance the horizontal portion, you have to do the end panel design. Now in end panel design also we have two things. One is you can do by post critical or by this tension field. So tension field also forms in the this one also. So that's what. So there are the guidelines. So if the web is designed using tension field, say, okay. So end panel, so this is what we say, when web of the girder is designed using simple post critical. So that means, and you have provided stiffeners also, but there is no tension fields. End panels, no special requirement is required actually. Nothing to worry about anything else. But if you have the tension field, then only we have a problem. So case one, okay. So that is, using tension field method. So the simple post critical method we can use. So here, you have to add that extra, I told you that HEQ, that extra forces have to be used, and then, you have to do the design, extra things will come into picture. Now end panel, so if it is case 2, say, where you are also designing the tension field, so no special treatment, but you have to check for the, anchorage forces RTF, then MTF, the bending moment, and this one has to be verified. And then you have to strengthen by providing end post or bearing stiffener, and other things have to be done. So 2 cases are there. Then once the end panel is done, so now you have to design the intermediate transverse stiffener. So aspect ratio you have to assume. Then this is a moment of inertia of the stiffener. So these are the guidelines, how to choose this itself. Now outstand of the stiffener you have to decide. So the maximum is 20 times TQ. TQ is the thickness of the stiffener, but effective width for the calculations is 14 times TQ itself we use. Okay. So then once that intermediate stiffeners also have been designed, then you have to check for buckling it. The stiffener buckling you have to do. Okay. So you have to find out the force, then the properties of the stiffener has to be used. The guidelines are the effective area of the stiffener has to be found out. So you find out the radius of the gyration, and then finally you go to that buckling curve C, and then you find out the buckling resistance of the stiffener, and so that you can do. Now suppose if the stiffener, apart from shear bucklings, if it is carrying load also, that is bearing, then the all other crippling also, then you have to check this extra, the formula also will be given, that AQF into 0.8 times gamma times AQ. So this is the area of the stiffener in contact with the flange action. So this also have to be decided. Now once the intermediate stiffeners have been done, okay, the end bearing stiffener you have to do, that is at the end, that is near the supports. So here also the same concept, it is also designed as a stiffener only. You find out the compressive force, because you have a concentrated load, the support reactions and all other things will be there. So the concepts are same, but the design compressive forces, you have a support reaction plus extra, which comes from the bending, that is from the tension field action, say, whichever is there in that panel itself. So then you have to check the same thing you have to do for buckling, then the web crippling, all those things have to be done. Once it is done, the connections have to be designed, then some curtailment is required actually. Sometimes there are some guidelines given in the code itself, and then the splices. Suppose you may not have a huge plate girder for 50 meter or something, then you do these splices, right, column splices, whatever we have said, that also has to be designed. But in most of the cases, but that becomes a much more complex design. Okay, so that is also, if it is required, you may have to do that check also. So these are the briefly you see the checks. Then there is a failure in bearing. So on the bearing stiffener you see, so this has to be checked. So this is also one step here. The bearing stiffener you have to do. So this is how so these are the fundamental the steps actually which you can use to design your plate girder. Okay, so let us see quickly so the plate girder so to simplify say, okay, so the plate girder means so you have to design the flange, that is the first step. Then the web dimensions you have to find out, then the stiffeners. And here if we are providing stiffeners or whatever, then tension field, then you have to design the end panel also. So once you have a stiffener say, you have to check for bearing, that is the load, buckling, and then the crippling kind of thing. All of them have to be checked. The formulas may be here and there, somewhere things may be different actually. Okay, so now let us quickly solve one problem to make the things clear for us, because so many design steps we will forget which formula to use where and other things also. Okay, so this problem is available in Duggal's textbook, all of you may be having. So now this is a problem. We have to design 24 meter in span. Okay, and it is laterally restrained. So what is, if it is laterally restrained, say what happens? So if it is a laterally restrained, so which design step you can remove?
No need of
No need of longitudinal stiffener. Okay, no need to check lateral torsional buckling. Otherwise, things becomes much more complex. Now it has to support a UDL 100 kilonewton per meter throughout the span, exclusive of self weight. So self weight of the plate girder we don't know. Okay, so you have to design the girder without intermediate transverse stiffeners. Now which design step you can omit without stiffeners? Means so there are no stiffeners at all. Which design step you can forget here? So in all the design steps, which step can be ignored when there are no stiffeners? It is unstiffened.
Web buckling.
Web, no, not web buckling. Which design? So we have to design the web. Web has to be. We have to check for buckling of the web. But now there are no stiffeners here. So there are no stiffeners. Say what happens? Tension field will get formed.
End panel design.
End panel design you can ignore. Then apart from that, say if there are no stiffeners, say you will it will have any tension field, you can go into the tension field thing. See, for the web buckling there are no stiffeners, so you are having a plate girder like this. So this much tension field will get developed. Whether you have to use you will want the girder to go into tension field range.
No, sir.
So you can use simple post critical only. You followed. So this is a tension field thing. No stiffeners means no tension field thing also will not get formed. So end panel design gone. Then this tension field design also gone. So and if it is laterally restrained, say, longitudinal things also are not required. Okay, and there is no need to do for each and every stiffener, intermediate stiffener, this, that, or this. That is also may not be required actually. Okay, so now let us see this simple problem. Okay. And now, so this is what we said. So the steel is of Fe 410, yield stress 250. Everything has been given. So now you have to design the and of course here he has provided when at the ends what he is doing. So this is my plate girder. So at the ends, say what is that this problem says he has put up a. Now what is that he has done? There are no stiffeners, but the problem says what is that he has done near the end. So one load bearing stiffener he has put up near the end. So this you have to design. So he has created a problem for us actually. Okay, so this you have to do. And now the first thing is you have to find out the self weight of the plate girder. So which is the most challenging because we don't know the weight of the plate girder. So what's the guideline? Now what is the guideline given in the code? Are the guidelines we have said here?
WL by 400.
WL by 400 or WL by 300, which you can use this one. Okay, so to be on the safe side, say we take WL by 400. So this is a thumb rule. So what is a W is a load which is coming on the plate girder. So on the plate girder, how much load is coming? 100 kilonewton. This one. So span is 24. Okay. So into 24, that is in meters. Okay, kilonewton per meter. So that's why you see we have multiplied this itself. Okay. So W is this should be in newtons. Not in that is a per meter he has given. So 100 into 24 is a total load. Multiplied by L is this thing itself. Okay, so this turns out to be 144 kilonewtons. So the self weight of plate girders, say per meter, okay, per unit length, if you try to find out. So this is 144 divided by 24. So this turns out to be 6 kilonewton per meter. So this is the self weight of the plate girder, per as a UDL kind of thing. So the factored load, say. So the factored load will be 1.5 times multiplied by 6. So this is 9 kilonewton per meter. Okay, and the total uniform load, say. So total factored load will be so 100 kilonewton is coming there. So 1.5 into 100 plus this 1.5 into 6. So all of you add this one. So this turns out to be 159 kilonewton per meter. So this is the load which is coming on your plate girder. Okay. Now this is applied as a UDL, and it is a simply supported. Say all of you know the maximum bending moment will be WL square by 8. Right? And WL by 2 is a shear force. So you find out bending moment max. WL square by 8. So this you can easily calculate some 11,448 kilonewton meter. Then shear force maximum, that is WL by 2. So this turns out to be 1908 the kilonewton. So these are the loads. So for this we have to do the the design. Okay, so this is the loads. And now the next step is what is the next step? Now we have to design, we have to check the web, the depth and other things have to be checked actual. Okay, so the design of the web, that is you have to find out what should be the depth and other things we have to fix up actual. So here what is the depth of the plate girder? See, once that is done, see here, so this is done actual. Okay, the load is done. Now what is the next step? You have to find out depth and the thickness of your this one using this formulas. Okay, so the depth and thickness, let us see. So depth is that formula. So mz into k by this is a yield strength 0.33. So now what this k is nothing but your slenderness ratio. And now how much is the slenderness ratio? So how do you take the slenderness ratio? D by TW. So what's the guideline here? So if you see that table, which I think. D by TW, that is a slenderness ratio. We had the guidelines here. Now what is the value now? What is the limit? No stiffeners. Okay, if there are no stiffeners, what is the limit? See this, what is the no stiffeners means? If there and you are providing web connection to flanges along both longitudinal edges, that means you see you are doing we are having a plate girder here also, it is like an I section only. So what should be the limit here? D by TW 200 this one. So this has to be used in our calculations. Okay, so now let us go back to that one, 200. And now what is other thing you have to check here apart from 200? So your D by TW, say, so this has to be less than 200 times epsilon anyway, that 250 this one. And now there is a one more thing also you have to check, 345 times epsilon f square. What is this 345? You remember I just told you what is a 345 stands for? Now what happens if it is a 345? Now I just told you, right, what happens when it is a 345. So you see the slides. Now where is that 345 coming? We just told you, right? Now, so 345 where it comes? Where is that 345? Here. Now, so what is this 345? Can you see here? Now, what happens? This 345 is limit for. Now, what happens? The compression flange will get buckled into the web. I told you, right, why it happens. Top flange compression, bottom flange tension. So it will have a, if you resolve into components, say. So this problem comes into picture. So that is how you see, you have to check for 345 also. Okay, so this is the most important thing. Now anyway 200 we have, but you have to just check as a this one. So this is our the 345. So these are the guidelines. So in this problem, let us say I will take K as 180. Okay, it should be less than 200 and it should be less than this one. So now so once K is known to you, say, now you can find out that this is 11448 into 10 to the power of 6 into 180 is my K, that's the slenderness ratio, and the 250 is there, and of course we have this 0.33. So this turns out to be 1871.9 mm actually. So this is the the depth of the your flange actually. So now in this problem, say I will approximate this to 1900 to be on the safe side. Okay, so this we will approximate. Of course you can take 1800 also, you can check and you can do the calculation. If it doesn't satisfy, you can go back also. Okay, now the thickness of the the web, this one. So this is also that formula, mz by f into k square whole to the power of that 0.33. So substitute all those things, it turns out to be 10.95 mm. So we can approximate this to be of course in the problem, if you see, he has done 12 but it doesn't satisfy some criteria. Okay, so we can take this directly to be as some 16 mm, because we will see later on if you take 12 or if you take 11 it will fail in some clauses. So that's why to be on safe side, so we have taken a 16 the mm itself. Okay, so my web is so we have a web plate now, so which is 1900 mm depth of the web, and its thickness is 12 mm. So this is my web, the size itself. Now once web is done, now we have to find out the flanges. So the flanges has to be found out. Now what is the area of the flange? What is that formula? So the whole bending moment is taken care by the flanges actually. So F what is the yield strength, whatever we have, and the depth of the web. So substitute here 11448 10 to the power of 6 multiplied by 1.1 divided by 250 multiplied by 19 whatever you see, the 100 it will be there. So this will give you see the depth of the area of the flange itself. Okay, so now so this turns out to be some 816 or whatever, some number we will get this expression also. So now so from this expression, you can find the breadth of the flange. Okay, so the guideline is you can take 0.3 times depth. So this turns out to be 570 mm. So approximately you see, if you take it to be 580 mm say. Now the thickness of the flange you can find out. So the area divided by this itself. So this turns out to be 49.68. Approximate this to 50 mm actually. So we have a flange plates. Two flange plates, one on the top, other one is the bottom. So the dimensions are 580 by 50 mm. So these are the dimensions of the flange plate. So this is an approximation. So this is a thumb rule we use. The breadth of the flange is something like 0.3 times the depth actual, or you can go with the classification that also one can use. Okay, but now if you do the classification say of the flanges, so these also important step actual. So B by TF. Okay, so this should be less than 8.4 times epsilon. So the outstanding width you take, so breadth of the flange minus TW by 2. So all of these details. Okay, 580 minus 16 whatever we have. Okay, so 580 minus 16 you calculate by 2 we have, then B by T of F, T flange. So this you will get 282 I think. Okay, by 50 or something. So you will get somewhere around approximately 5.6 or something like that you get, and it is less than that 8.4. So obviously the flange is plastic. Okay, so this is the classification for the flange. Now you check the bending strength. Okay, the next step is you have to calculate the bending strength. So all the steps whatever I showed you, same thing we are following here also. So bending strength of the flange, you have to follow the plastic section modulus actual. So the plastic section modulus, so the whole bending moment is carried by the flange. So the area whatever we have, then a depth minus TF by 2. Okay, so we are calculating the plastic section modulus of the flange. So you do all the substitution. So it turns out to be, see, 156.55 into 10 to the power of 6 mm cube. So the moment capacity, this is a beta ZPZ Fy by gamma times m naught. So substitute all those numbers, so this turns out to be 11,824 somewhere approximately. Okay, so which is greater than the maximum bending moment which is coming on the these things, that is 11,448. Okay, so so this turns out 11,448. So that means your flanges are fine, so the bending thing is safe itself. Now once the bending strength is done, now you have to calculate the shear capacity of the web. So now in this problem, so because there are no intermediate stiffeners, so no tension field, you have to use the post critical method only, the simple method only. Okay. So d by TW you find out. So you have to do all these calculations. Okay. So d by TW means is 1900 by 16. So this turns out to be 118.75. Then tau. So the critical buckling strength has to be found out. That formula, all of you remember it, kV, pi square E by 12 into 1 minus mu square, which is a Poisson's ratio, then d by TW whole square. So and kV, this formula we all have seen. So this turns out to be when there are no stiffeners. Okay. So if you see that slide, where is that slide? What is the value of kV? Okay, so this is the one. So what is the value of kV? Sorry. So this is our method. So what is the kV value? So can you see here? So no stiffeners have been provided. So now when stiffeners, so you are having stiffeners only at the supports. So what is the value of kV?
5.35.
5.35. If there are stiffeners, then the value also will be different. Okay, so pick up from this graph. So kV anyway 5.35, and all the other things also. Young's modulus, Poisson's ratio, for steel it is a 0.3, depth, thickness, so you can easily find out this one. So this turns out to be 68.58 Newton per mm square. Okay, now you find out the slenderness ratio of the web also, that is Fyw by say √3 times tau Cr comma E. So this turns out to be 1.45. What is your comment on the web? Web is slender, or what is that? What is the limit for slenderness? This one for the web? So for plate girder, what is the when you call as a slender web, when you call as a this yielding kind of thing? Now what is that band? Lambda slenderness ratio. It is. Now previously we have seen, right, buckling. In the post critical method, say we have the 3 curves are there. What are those curves? See in the post critical method. So what is the slenderness ratio? You can see here what type of web it is. 1.2 is 1.45. We have got our slenderness ratio. What type of web it is? A thick web or thin web? See 1.45 we have got. So 1.45 means it lies between. See for the web to be thicker, say it should be less than 0.8. Okay, but now it is more than 0.8. So obviously you see your web is a slender thing. Okay. So now that also so this is a very slender web. So you use that formula, say. So finally your tau C. Now tau B, that is this one. So this turns out to be Fyw by √3. So you have that formula, just to substitute here. So this turns out to be 68.65 Newton per mm square. So the shear capacity of the web cell. So that is D times TW multiplied by tau B. So substitute all those numbers, 1900 into 16 into 68.65 into 10 to the power of minus 3. So this turns out to be 2086.9. So this is the shear capacity of the web. What is the shear force which is coming on our plate girder? No, the maximum is maximum value is 1908. So what is the comment? Our comment is so your flange is safe for bending, shear is safe for buckling actually. So this is also done. Now LTB check not required. So now what is the next step? End panel design is required. That is also not required because there is no tension field. And now our step will be you have to connect you have to design for the connection between the flange and the web, and then you have to design the end bearing stiffener, because the problem they have mentioned that at the supports they are going to put a end bearing stiffener also. Okay, so those two are remaining. So fine. So I will stop here. So the next class, we will continue our discussion. Okay. So we will finish our design problem in the next class.